Hurry, the new cuisine to his raw pizzas are going to burn! We've got so many story pizzas just waiting to tell all their glorious tales. What are you doing, Monsieur Donald? These orders need to be taken.
I'm going. Come on, Gaston, I'm your favorite guy. We sponsored your story cooking in episode 11, remember? What makes a good origin story?
I do not care if you fancy yourself as my favorite guy. The great Gaston Crayon de Papier needs his food delivered. Answer the phone, Donald.
Fine. Thank you for choosing Crayon de Papier's Pizzeria. What stories can we cook for you this evening?
Hi. I wanted to order some stories, Oz.
Well, you called the right place.
I'll have 2 large dramas, Oz. I'm all about the drama, you see. On the first one, can I have half romance and half historical disaster toppings?
Got it. Your first story pizza's Titanic. Anything else?
Whoa, dude. Hold the brakes, man. Who said anything about Titanic? My first story pizza was obviously inspired by Pearl Harbor. Duh.
I guess it's better than Pompeii. What about the other pizza?
Alright, this one's a bit, tricky, man.
Alright.
One half of this, has both existentialism and surrealism toppings.
Ooh.
Love me some surrealism, man.
I can tell, sir.
And the other half of this, I'd like something dark and morbid. I don't know, surprise me. I want this story to mess people up, you know? I want them to question their very reality.
I'm questioning mine already, sir. Will that complete your order?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have that ready to you in about 30 minutes.
Yeah, tell your delivery guy to watch out for my guard cat, bro. He, eats people.
Well, he was a fun guy. Maybe we should lay off the fun guy, though. Thank you for choosing Crayon de Papier's Pizzeria. What stories can we cook for you this evening?
Hello, can I have a medium teen paranormal romance pizza with half vampire and half sparkly toppings?
I'm sorry, miss. We've discontinued our teen paranormal romance pizza. Can I get you anything?
No! I must have teen paranormal romance pizza! I'm dying for one of those! You don't understand!
I'm sorry. They were no longer popular on our menu. We've since replaced them with teen dystopian future pizza. Can I interest you in that, miss?
What? Those aren't even close to the same! Paranormal has vampires! I want a vampire story and I need it now! I must have my Edward!
I'm truly sorry, miss, and I'm sure Edward is too.
You don't understand! No one understands vampires! They are a gift from God to our society! I want my blood sucked, damn it!
Whoa, she needs help. Hopefully this shift goes by fast. Here we go. Thank you for choosing Crayon de Papier's Pizzeria. What stories can we cook for you this evening?
Actually, I would not like a story pizza tonight. I've called to file a complaint.
Of course you have. Alright, lay it on me.
The last order I received turned out to be the most preposterous story I've ever consumed in my life. I could not even finish it. The writing was far too childish. Barely primary grade level, I'd say.
Sorry about that, sir. May I ask what your order was so we can remake it for you?
I ordered 2 sci-fi pizzas, each of them with 1/3 comedy, 1/3 action, and 1/3 talking animal talk.
Wow, really? That's quite an order. How preposterous did these stories end up?
The bloody worst, I'd say. They had these dinosaurs wielding laser guns and cracking jokes while blowing each other to bits. Even the names of them were terrible. What is this, Mega Zook? And the second pizza was subtitled The Primeval Power? Ugh, what pedantic prehistoric modern parlance is this?
Wow. How did my books get in our story pizza system? Weird. Anyways, can't help you, gotta go!
Wait, these are your stories? You are an embarrassment to your...
Bye-bye. Man, that's what I needed. Another gut punch to my already dwindling self-esteem. I wonder who this delightful fellow will be. Thank you for choosing Crayon de Papier's Pizzeria. What story can we cook for you this evening?
Donald, you're working right now?
Wait, David, is that you?
No, it's a tween girl who loves vampires too much. Of course it's me! Why did you take a shift tonight? We have a podcast to record!
Oh, damn it, that's tonight? Oh, fine. Alright, I'll get out of here. Really didn't want to work anyway, so be there soon.
You better.
Oh yeah, see if you can swipe some short story breadsticks before you leave.
I'll see what I can do. Mr. Papier, I gotta go!
You cannot leave, Monsieur Donald. We just got this order for 50 encyclopedia pizzas.
Ah, man, I wish I could help you with that, but you see, the wife's having a baby, so ciao!
Come back here, you filthy rat! You'll never get your silly stories with the dinosaurs and the laser guns popular without me, I tell you! Never!
Alright, I'm back, David. I'm sorry, I forgot our short story breadsticks. I was kind of in a hurry to get out.
How did you forget the short story breadsticks, man? Those are like the best thing from that restaurant.
Okay, well, to be fair, I didn't forget. I really wanted to get out of there really quickly. They had guns on me and such. Not important. Long story. Let's just move on. Don't worry.
All right, you're finally here, so let's go ahead. Fine. All right, I'll go. Welcome, fellow nerds.
Yes, indeed.
To another episode of the Rit Wit, the show where one of our co-hosts is not wearing a shirt, letting his more raw side come forth for some truly unfiltered material.
Oh, yeah.
Which one is it, though? Which one?
I'm gonna say it's you. You know why?
Why?
Because you're not wearing a shirt. I'm completely naked in the buff. Yeah. This is a stripped episode of Britwood. Wait, stripped means we've already. That doesn't work. Never mind. Okay. Okay. Neither of us are naked. Let me just say.
Just when you think we have no more lines to cross, we cross them all.
I didn't say anything about anything. I just said I'm naked. Come on. You think that's bad? Come on. That's how God intended it.
That's how God made us, yes. We come into the world that way.
Anyways.
Let me
just specify. One of us is, in fact, not wearing a shirt. Neither of us are naked. All right, now that we got that out of your heads. Or, wait, what are we talking about? This is a podcast. We're both wearing very professional-looking suits and ties, all right? Because we take our job seriously.
Birthday suits.
Okay, a birthday suit and a tie just sounds kind of kinky. All right, enough of this. Let's move on, please, God.
All right, let's punish Donald for being late here. I'm going to go ahead and go first. What will we rip off this month?
Yeah, go first, please do.
All right, so I was rereading a book by Robert Ludlum. The name of the book is The Icarus Agenda.
Ooh.
And one I read a little less recently called The Matlock Paper.
Okay.
And one of the things that I found when I was reading Ludlum is he has this intriguing habit of using italics, like almost overusing italics, if you will.
Really?
But if you think about it, if you read it in the voice, so to speak, that it's meant to be read in, you hear that it adds the extra emphasis, and I really do like that. Unfortunately, there's a factor of his writing that I'm not terribly fond of, and that is when he has, multiple characters standing in the same room, and they just keep talking, and he doesn't really clarify who's talking, and so, sometimes you can figure it out, but generally I have to read through it twice, 3 times to figure out, oh, this person is talking here, because he doesn't give you any hints. I dislike that.
Yeah, that sounds annoying, but I often use italics to mean emphasis. Probably a bit too much myself, but I try to...
Well, no, italics, that's the purpose of italics. It makes them stand out, right? Unless it's all in italics and then it loses its effect.
Yeah, exactly. Well, just like anything, there can be too much of a good thing.
Too much of a good thing is a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Having too much to eat at lunch is bad for you later.
Oh, yeah. I can relate, especially today, man. Ugh.
Ugh. Too many stories from work there, Donald.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. Oh, there was just one customer. I don't want to get into it. But I really need to talk to my boss.
You need a new job. Well, why don't you just do this one?
You think that this podcast would pay well, but it doesn't. Anyways, sorry.
It doesn't really pay well. Unless you go on iTunes and give us a positive review. We might make money that way.
Please do. and dear God, I'm going to have to probably put the explicit tag from that. We haven't sworn yet. So I guess that's fine. Let's keep it that way, all right?
Oh, boy. Anyway,
let's freaking keep it that way. I was gonna say that I didn't want to.
You were gonna say something else. So. Yeah, no, please don't make the explicit tag necessary.
All right, anything else you gotta rip off?
Yes, I was watching a show. When it first came out, I was originally keeping tabs on it, but I wasn't able to watch much of it. And the show was on Nickelodeon, Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Ah, yes. The good one. That's a good show.
I really liked the show. But I finally had a chance to catch it basically in full on Netflix, and so I was...
oh, it's on Netflix. I gotta watch it now. Or maybe it's not on my Netflix. It might just be on Japanese Netflix.
I don't know. I don't know what to say on that.
You keep talking about I'm going to search if it's on Netflix here. Mid-show. Professional. Right? Keep going, keep going.
Such a professional.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I really liked the show, but I didn't quite have the chance to...
Damn it, it's not on our Netflix. Sorry, go on. Okay. Alright, anyways, go on.
Anyway, the thing that I really want to take from Avatar The Last Airbender, some behind-the-scenes stuff, is that one guy came up with the choreography for all 4 of the bending styles.
Really?
If you will. And they all are based on various Chinese martial arts. And so, like, between the mythology of the show and the nature of the choreography, it kind of is inspiring me to do something in an applicable story where I have, like, a martial arts thing. And maybe it's a solo adventure for my alter ego character as he's learning martial arts or something. Or, you know, you could put it into a fanfic related to Power Rangers because obviously...
Right, it's about the martial arts, yeah.
the big get from it, though, and the thing that I'm really, like, hoping to use is that sometimes the motions from various styles are completely different.
Yes.
So perhaps in that training montage scene, if not a longer form plotline, you have them wrestle with how the motions are, like, basically alien to their instincts.
Right.
To use the example from The Last Airbender.
Right. The show,
intriguing to watch...
Not the movie.
The show, not the movie.
Yeah, because the movie's just called The Last Airbender, so that's why I wanted to clarify this.
Sorry, you're right. Thank you for helping me clarify. Actually, it's kind of funny. If you take apart the title of this show, you have 2 different, very, very vastly different movies.
Well, yeah.
So, Aang, the main character of this show, is trying to learn earth bending, and it's described in the show as, like, the opposite style. Like, the attitude that you take to learn to master earthbending is different from the one that he innately knows as an airbender.
Right.
And it does make quite a bit of sense, but it's also kind of reflected in the motions they use to wield the earth beneath them.
I mean,
are different than the ones that he uses to wield the air around them all.
I mean, it naturally makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, it really does, and I really like that. Also, as a counterpoint to it, in the same episode, the main, like, I suppose you could call him a villain character, Prince Zuko of the Fire Nation.
The guy that all the fangirls love with his enormous scar, because scars are sexy.
Well, anyway. So Zuko is learning a move from his uncle that's traveling with him.
Yes.
And his uncle explicitly mentions that he learns this because he watched Waterbenders, which, of course, polar opposites there as well. So, you know... It's just something to think about as you go through it. Like, how many martial arts are really, like, incompatible in their movements? I don't know. I'm not educated enough to know this, but I think it'd be really interesting to explore.
Definitely something to look into.
So I kind of want to do that.
Yeah.
Heck, honestly, it might even work for a villain to bring the beat down. Obviously, their motions are so different that you just don't know how to counter them, right?
That makes a good villain, certainly. One thing I want to bring up for... not necessarily The Last Airbender, but actually the sequel show. This is something I've always liked about. This is kind of like a separate thing. This is like an impromptu what I'll rip off from it, just because this is something that you remind me of. In that sequel show that came out, The Legend of Korra.
Legend of Korra.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I've only seen The Last Airbender, but I've seen clips of it. And I really, really like the fact that that hundreds of years have passed and the world has advanced technologically. That is rare in a fantasy show. They have cars, they have cities, they have modern stuff. They just happen to also still have all the airbending and waterbending and all the other magic and stuff. It's just the world's technology has advanced. And that's so great. Like, that's a big pet peeve of mine. And like Lord of the Rings or like Star Wars. Like, Star Wars is a big one. Like, Lord of the Rings, you can say, oh, it's like an equivalent of like the Dark Ages that happens to just last a really long time for them. But like Star Wars...
Well, Star Wars, too, you can say planets just don't civilize either.
Okay, but here's the thing.
They don't have contact with technology. Now, I'm not saying every place should be like that, but in Star Wars, you could at least use that as a shoehorn explanation.
Like, except for the fact that in Star Wars, they have blasters that fire the same way. They have lightsabers that block the same way. You think that after countless times of a blaster firing a lightsaber and having the lightsaber shoot it back, they might be like, let's devise the blaster that can go through it, or one that disables the lightsaber, one that turns it off. Something! Like, that all sounds good, so I guess now the thing I'm actually going to rip off.
Alright, go for it.
So I've discovered the show on this YouTube channel. They like recommend various cartoons that are like, they like now. One of them I watched, they showed clips of it, and I thought, that sounds funny, so I watched it on Netflix, and it is really funny. It's called Buddy Thunderstruck. It's this stop-motion comedy made by the guys who did Robot Chicken, but it's far more kid-friendly than that. And it's like about these...
Which, I mean, Robot Chicken was also stop-motion.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
You know,
but yeah,
already in the genre.
But like it's like they're these anthropomorphic animals and like stuff, but they do these like. But they basically one of the main characters is like this dog. He's a doofus in a small town who's a local celebrity because he keeps winning the town's weekly truck race. There's like these semi trucks that like just always go in a loop, like a figure 8 track, and he just always wins. And like all the fans adore everything he does. It's great. Like the very first joke of the very first episode already had me on the floor, where it was just like 10 seconds in. He opens up with like one of his fans putting up his framed picture in his house. Like, wow, this is like the last thing. I put this house together for 6 years, and now it's finally finished. I've put this house together with my own bare hands. And that's when Buddy slams right into the house with his truck. It's like, hi there, sorry about that. It's like, oh wow, Buddy, Thunderstruck, don't worry, I'm gonna keep that hole in there forever. And then he's like, and so he says, sorry about that, we're just trying to evade the cops here, but like, I'll see you at the race. Oh yeah, I'll be there. And then I was like, okay, bye. And then he drives through the other end of the house. But like, I love these fans, just how crazy they are about him. But here's the thing, like, it avoids this thing that like a lot of times when you do something like this, like your main character who's like popular and like dumb in a way that like is usually grating to the audience. Like,
sure,
if someone's popular and they clearly don't really deserve it, it can be like, what? What's the point? Even if it's for comedy, like, but like this show kind of gets around it by just it shows like how empty like their adoration is, because like he screws up a lot, right? And he always gets it back, but at the same time, his fans, despite normally how mindlessly they love everything he does, they turn on him on a dime whenever someone comes in who just seems slightly cooler. Like, it's like, so even if it's just however brief, like, wow, this guy's way
new
cool.
Face.
Like, wow, Buddy.
Ooh, new face. You're fascinating.
Yeah, Buddy. Oh, go away, Buddy. Your time's up, old man. For something like that. So, but it does all this with a good heart, with the sake of comedy. So, like, one episode, it has a new person in town. I forgot what his name is. Something like Moneybags or something. He's like this villainous British sheep. And he's like, he wants to usurp Buddy by training his rival that's in the town, Tex Jr., to be more aggressive, even though Tex Jr. has consistently shown how inept and unlucky he is, as opposed to Buddy, who is inept but lucky. So,
sure.
But all this new person,
lucky in spite of his lack of skill.
Exactly. Both neither of them have skill. One of them just has a lot more luck. So, I guess, like, to be fair, Buddy has like a best friend who like really helps him with just building up the truck and stuff. But he's also kind of a sycophant. Anyway, so
sure.
All this new person has to do, all Mr. Moneybags or whatever has to do, is to constantly and repeatedly poke Tex Jr. over the course of several days. Like, there's a montage of him doing it while he's sleeping, like, while he's trying to do other things, and then he's just like, stop, 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 stop. Like, even when he's sleeping, it's like, stop, stop. Finally, he's just like, he just snaps, and he just starts tearing stuff up, at which point, Moneybags is like, haha, your training is complete. Because he's gonna make him aggressive, you see. Now Tex Jr. like annihilates him at the truck race, but then also he just show how more powerful he is. He beats him at a steak eating contest. He beats him at stand up comedy. He beats him at a burping competition. Like it's great. Like what happens at Buddy's burp causes his best friend to faint, the sycophant one. While Tex Jr. what he does mid burp, he calls his father at this shop and then puts him on speakerphone, and his burp destroys the shop through the line of the phone. It's great.
Wait, you said mid-burp he calls his father?
Not mid-burp, just before the burp. I meant, sorry.
Right before.
Just before the burp, yeah, he calls his father, and then he puts on speakerphone, he burps, and then the shop on the other end explodes. It's great.
Jeez.
It's great. It's so absurd.
My daddy farted and blew up the house.
Naturally, his fans, like Buddy's fans, switch sides immediately. So... it is all resolved at the end, and he gets his fame back, and everything, and Tex Jr. goes back to being an unlucky loser. It just basically proves how meaningless it all is for the sake of comedy. So basically, on this long-winded note, what I'll rip off him is that the idea you can have a character with normally unlikable characteristics, you see, like, but if you show how they don't work even within the context of the show, you can make them likable and endearing, and comedic in a way that makes everyone laugh, both with him and at him, you know? Like, there's a way to make it work. Like, a lot of times you have a character who's unlikable in a comedy, and that's the point. A lot of times you're just like, shut up, come on. But you can do it in a way that's, like, endearing, like this, so.
Yeah, intriguing.
So.
I can't say I'm familiar with it, so I have to ask, is it a Netflix original show? Or is it something that they published and then
it's Netflix original.
Was uploaded to? Okay.
So maybe you'll be able to get in Japan. Why don't you go check mid-episode?
No, that's okay.
You're more professional than I am. Anyways.
We do try so hard at the Ritwit. Speaking of that, what we at the Ritwit have writ.
Yes, what have we writ? that we've tried so hard. I was trying to figure out a way to make it rhyme. I always try to figure out a way to make it rhyme, and I always fail. So, what are you gonna Ritz? What have you Ritz?
Traditions. Well, odds and ends, almost literally. Since the last episode, I've worked a little bit on Starburst. I worked a little bit on Pulsar. I've worked a little bit on the Tag Story and the Tag sequel. They've all seen work.
Little column A,
yay.
little column B.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they're pretty small chunks. Now, if I could just write larger ones, then I might make actual progress.
Whose fault is that? Nah, I've said this before. It is yours, but that's okay. You know it, and I know you keep rating me for it. Although I was kind of hoping this podcast would kind of give you some kicks in the pants. I guess it does a little, but
it does a little. Otherwise, I would have had no work since last time, right?
Good point. Indeed. All right. So.
Well, and of course, I should mention that this is the time to mention that I've been super busy. Like we normally record our podcast much earlier in the month, but we're getting to it very late this month because I've just been so packed with stuff on the schedule.
It's totally fine for me because I get that, and it's totally fine for me though because the episodes are always up at the end of the month, not because it takes so long to edit them, but because I get lazy. But now that there's so little left in the month, I can't procrastinate. I gotta get it done immediately. Well, not immediately, like 3 days. I'll still won't even start it until one more day left in the month. But so it all works out. At least for me. On mine, anyways.
Speaking of doing things in a timely manner, why don't we talk about something that you've written?
I guess we could. I don't know. I don't know. What is time, really? It's all relative, that, when you
Nobody has any more or less of it than anyone else, but we will all find the end of our time.
Time is just, it's such a, if you think about it, what is time? It's such a man-made construct. We all abide to this clock that we've all just decided. I'm just wasting time. I'm sorry. I'm doing that on purpose just to piss you off.
I noticed that. Well, okay, to throw it out there, you have two different arguments about time. One is that if you just abolished clocks and lived as, early settlers did, where they lived and died by the light of the sun.
Now you're pissing me off for wasting time. You put it right back at me. I'm sorry. You're right, though.
I figured you wanted me to say it. It's about time, which is important.
It's about time that we keep going, huh? Anyways.
Very well done.
Okay. I finished Megazoic, the third book, and I'm going to reveal the title now. Although it's not as big of a reveal as last time I revealed the Primeval Power, because I've actually already revealed it on Facebook. But let's keep the magic going. Let's make it seem like I have it. I mean, last time you hadn't. So, okay, I'm not going to edit this out, but I just want you to ignore everything. Just pretend. Use your imagination that you didn't.
Imagination.
And also use your imagination that David here has not heard the title either. So, you ready for me to reveal the title, David?
Yes, I am more than ready, Dom.
All right. Don't you mean, yay, way too loud like you did the last time?
Did I do that last
Oh my god, I need to re-edit that. It is painful. You're like, yay! Prolonged 3 seconds. So do it again, please. That's what I'm saying. It was really painful, so do it again, please.
After you read the actual title that I still have yet to hear, right?
No, it's I say, I'm going to reveal the title. Are you excited, David? At which point you go.
Oh, okay. Yay!
And then I go, good work, here, have a cookie. Exactly. Alright, anyways. The title of this third book is Megazoic, the Hunted Ones. You start talking over the title, I'm really close to swearing again. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to swear again. I'm going to censor it. You're such a blocker, David. It's Megazoic, the Hunted Ones. All right, you excited? You like it? Good. All right. Hunted Ones. Shut up. That's what the title is. Megazoic, the Hunted Ones.
You're gonna put me on a hunt if I keep doing this, man.
Okay. So, all right. That's the name of the third book. What does it mean? I'm gonna read to you the back of the book here, like I did last time. All right, you ready? Story time. Sit down, David.
I was sitting, but okay, I'll slouch further.
I'm already slouched very far, so just get to my level, anyways.
Impossible. I don't have a footrest.
Okay. For 80 million years, the evil Zul'Garen has plagued the dinosaurs of the world, spreading his claws within every crevice of civilization. Many centuries ago, he rebirthed species from his own era, and subtly integrated them into society for an unknown purpose. Dubbed the Elder Kind, these dinosaurs make up 12% of the world's populace, and have only just learned of their true origins. Now, Zul'Garen's robotic assassins, called Enforcers, have been targeting Elder Kind, prompting the government to relocate these dinosaurs into mass internment, an unethical, but ultimately necessary decision. As a Sign Raptor, Corten is an Elderkind species, so when he learns that Zul'Garen plans to unleash an energy wave to kill all Elderkind, he wants to take action. He escapes internment and is declared a fugitive, forcing the Laurasia Corps to hunt him and his allies down. Yet, Zul'Garen's threat looms, so Corten presses on. Despite the legal and personal stakes, this is a fight he cannot afford to lose.
Yay!
What have I done? Okay. Alright, it sounds intriguing.
Come on,
right?
you don't want raving, adoring fans.
I don't want this raving, adoring fan, that's for certain. Okay. Alright, so, yep, that's that. Yeah, I finished that. It has to go through all the editing and stuff and all the illustrating still, so it probably won't be out until closer to the end of the year, so I'm just revealing it because I finished it. But I can say, I'm not going to reveal the title for this yet, although I might reveal it sooner, for reasons that you'll see why later, I guess, once you actually read the third book. But,
well, when it's available, buy it on Amazon.com!
Preemptive ding, yes. Preemptive cheap plug, I mean. Not quite cheap plug yet. It's very expensive because it's so far out. Anyway, so...
Exactly.
Alright, so, I am starting the fourth book now, finally. Not finally, I mean, like, immediately. Like, one day after finishing book 3, I'm like, I'm already really excited, let's do book 4! And it's the last one, so this is gonna be finished. My baby's gonna be all grown up here soon.
I mean, it is practically old enough to drive.
Okay, the original idea, yes. Back in the day, back when it was it seems like just yesterday, it was just a little Lego movie, and now it's all grown up, being published.
And you're thinking about writing the screenplay for an actual movie, right?
I'm writing about freaking screenplay. They grow up so fast. There was enough of this crap.
Congratulations on finishing the third book.
Yeah, what's
See, he's made far more progress than me, but what do you expect?
I mean, we don't just say that I'm better than you.
We don't, but we are better than the listeners. I'm
better than you.
Actually, we've gotten away from saying that pretty consistently, haven't we?
Okay, well, we're bringing it back. We're better than you.
We're better than you, but he's obviously more accomplished than me, so.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, we're about equal in terms of skill. I'm just better in terms of progress, I guess. Maybe not but to be fair, this isn't. You're not doing this as a career. You're doing it as a hobby. More. I mean, eventually you might turn it into a sub-career, but your main passion is music, right? So
exactly.
Yes. So this is more my official career. So it's you
better be doing more like actual finished work than I am. So
yeah, exactly. So don't get down on yourself that I've done so much more than you will ever possibly do. No. Sorry, that was too far. I know.
If you intended to wound me with that comment, you managed. As a short knife jab to the chest.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're not going to do that shoot the arrow through the arch bullseye thing again, right? Because we did that a couple episodes ago.
It was more than a couple, but yeah, I changed it on purpose. Anyway, so what are we talking about today?
Right, sorry, please forgive me. Yeah, to make it up for you, maybe we should have a real dialogue between us about how I can forgive you. Isn't that right?
Sure, we'll go with that. Although it doesn't work, your segue, because we were going to talk about something different than a two-person dialogue first, weren't we?
We're just talking about dialogue in general, though, and how to do it based on a number of characters. Segue, it's continuing. I'm so good at my job.
We are so professional on this show. Yes, today we are talking a little bit about dialogue. Specifically, what do you do if you have, depending on how many characters you have in your scene, what do you do with the amount of dialogue? What's appropriate? What's too much? Too little? We're going to do some talking about that. But before we get into dialogue, we're going to go down the prefix ladder and go to monologue for a one-character scene.
Whoa. What does this mean? I think they call this I don't know. I had a bit there and I lost it. That's alright. This is raw, it's unfiltered. I'm the one without a shirt, listener. Spoiler alert. So... okay. And I guess as well as the shirt, some other sacrifices had to be made today. Namely,
your intellect.
Exactly. The shirt is my real... That's the reason why shirt always have such witty sayings on them, because it's really my brain.
It's where your wit comes from. Exactly.
There's a bit of drool coming out my lip right now because I'm just so dumb right now. Whoa.
All right. So anyway, when you have a one character scene,
yes.
You know, there are a couple of things to keep in mind as far as dialogue.
Right.
Is there a reason to break up your monotony? If you only have one character, you know, they don't necessarily need to talk much.
Right.
But if you only want it to be, you know, prose narration, that gets a little boring, I imagine.
Exactly.
So,
I think dialogue is more striking. Like, a lot of times, like, everyone's guilty of this, myself included, and maybe some people aren't, but I know most people are. When there's a long paragraph, we have a tendency to skim as readers. Like, maybe not pick up every word. Like, just because, especially if it's, like, a really long one. Like...
This paragraph looks like it's going to take me 5 minutes to read on the whole. I'm just going to, you know, make it go that much faster.
Exactly. Well, and a lot of us don't even do it, like, on purpose. It's not like, oh, this is boring, I'm going to skim. It's more like our eyes just kind of keep darting ahead more. That's kind of how so, having dialogue is a good way to have
I want to see the light at the
paragraph
end of the
breaks,
tunnel.
So.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
you're right.
Because every time you have dialogue, you're supposed to indent new paragraphs and all that. It creates it creates a new paragraph so you don't have to run on with your old one.
Right. But, yeah, you're right. Is it really necessary for one character? And a lot of times, for me, personally, whenever I have one character on their own, it's usually a character who's, like, likes to talk to themselves anyways. A lot of times it's, like, a particularly, like, intelligent character who has a lot in their mind. And also, this is just a personal thing, I really don't like doing character thoughts. Like, having thoughts, like as dialogue, like in the italics thing. Like, a lot of times if a character's thinking something, I just incorporate it into the prose.
I suppose it depends on your perspective, too. If you're talking from a third-person perspective, it's really weird to get a glimpse into a first person's head. Does that make sense?
Right.
But, if you're writing it first person, then it totally makes sense to have the thoughts come in your flow.
Well, if it's first person, though, you don't really need to have it in dialogue, because it's already in prose. It's the whole thing is their thoughts. But third person, the best thing to have thought dialogue, like in the italics, I think, is third person limited. When it is third person... but it's in one character's head, like Harry Potter.
But it's mostly focused on the one guy, right?
Yeah, like Harry Potter's like that. For pretty much the entire series, it's from Harry Potter's perspective, and therefore he does have thought dialogue. I believe it's been a while.
You know, it's a good thought. We never really hear what happens in that dorm room with Hermione and Lavender Brown and Parvati Patil, do we?
And we don't hear their thoughts either, but we hear Harry's. Like not even just in dialogue, but there's like lines where he's thinking. So,
right,
and it's in italics. So, yeah, but. I tend to do, me personally, well, for the one big series I'm working on, Megazoic, right? And who knows if I'll do this for every story I write, but for this one, it's third person, it's technically third person omniscient, except for that each scene...
Well, you don't, change in the middle either.
Exactly. Like, each scene...
limit your scope on purpose.
Yeah, like, each scene has one focal character. Sometimes it bounces around, but, whenever it does, I try to make it kind of like that one thing we were talking about last episode with the whole big battle. It bounces around all the time.
The three-way battle, yeah, there's no way you can do that from the same place.
Right, but,
scope.
For each little moment, though, the character perspective, the one you're following, changes. Subtly. It's not like I show their thoughts. I mean, I guess I could, but I don't. There's times where, one character faces another character, and between the two, one character is technically the focal one. Sort of, maybe, I don't know. Anything else there's to say about one characters?
Yeah, so, maybe there's a circumstance in where speech is, allowed, not only allowed, but expected, and thus it fits naturally in. Maybe there's a vocal recognition password you have to say to get into this base,
right.
And that even that's, a break in the paragraph.
That's true. Even if they're not, thinking to themselves too much, and they're just doing something that is a lot of dialogue on their own, like sneaking into a base, or, something like that, where they're thinking, I guess, but more about the mission rather than
So here's the question. If you're talking an infiltration mission, what about a computer voice from the base that they're trying to infiltrate?
Yeah, that could work. Or it could be a voice
It's not
over
really
the PA.
dialogue, but it is certainly something they hear, which means it's worth, setting off in quotes.
Or it could be something over the PA, the white zone is for not parking.
Please stay behind the yellow line. Yeah.
Your safety is important to us. Please steer clear of all decorative pools of lava. Right? Or those
go into the ones for function, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, the decadent... Let's see, what are some other ones from Ratchet & Clank that are funny? Oh yeah. Here we go, make you jealous. Welcome to the Zeldrin Starport. Due to increased security, thermonuclear warheads and nail clippers are no longer permitted as carry-on baggage.
Why they decided to end nail clippers? It's hilarious. It works. But anyway,
to be fair, I think nail clippers are technically not allowed either. Maybe not nail clippers, but certain little things like that. Anyways, hand cream.
I'm gonna use one mention as a bit of a segue here. When you have one character that's dominating the conversation, when they have a monologue, but they're not alone in the scene. So
maybe like they're giving a rousing speech.
So, like, they're giving a rousing speech, or they're finally putting words on the realizations that have been stewing in their head for a long time, and they have other people.
I love you, and this is why I love you. Blah, 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 blah. Ever since we met, blah, blah, blah.
You had me at hello, shut up. Kind of
yeah.
Thing. Anyway.
I think the line is actually, shut up, you had me at hello, for what it's the other way around. I don't know. I haven't seen that movie.
What?
I said the line was... The line is reversed. It's not you had me at hello, shut up. It's more, I think it's shut up, you had me at hello.
Yeah, but anyway. Well, I was treating it as if it were two different people talking in that respect. But yeah, and that's not how it goes in the movie, I'm pretty sure. Anyway.
I don't know, I haven't seen the movie. I haven't seen Jerry Maguire. I think it's from Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, neither have I. Yes, it is. Good for you. Good
yeah! We both know this movie. Oh. We both know this movie that neither of us have seen. So.
Well, I mean, it's one of the most quoted lines in all of, Hollywood history, so,
Yeah. So I guess that'll do, pig. That'll do. Anyways.
That'll do, pig. That'll do. Anyway, so, if you have two characters, just to explain a little bit of what our thought process is here, we're going to do, a smaller cluster of characters, and we're also going to do the larger cluster of characters for reasons that I'm, not, confident on an explanation for. I'm thinking between 2 and 4, and then 5 and up is a different beast, I feel.
Right, because
Donald kind of agrees with me. So we're going to talk about a small cast scene now. Two characters is our bar, of course, but anyway. So
yes.
Would you like to go first this time?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I love these kind of characters. As you know, I have these teams, where they do a lot of banter, but also do plot important stuff. And I try to keep it minimal. People have gone up to me. I remember when my first person to read Megazoic, this reader was like, "Hey, so you have a country that you say has millions of different people, but you have a soldier count that's only a couple hundred. Why is that? That doesn't make any sense." My reason was shut up! No. But the actual reason...
Well, based on the structure, if you're talking about the old version, or are you talking about this one?
I'm talking about this one, the one that was published.
Oh,
so
okay. Sorry,
but
if you're talking about the old version, you had a specific cap on how many people could be enlisted, so that would make sense, but no, this is...
there's 24 squads,
24
and
squads.
each one has a set number of people in it. The reason why... is because of this. That way there can be dialogue between them, and it's not too much of a hassle. This character said, this character said. I mean, I guess I could have done, these are the main players of it, and then the rest of them are just faceless soldiers, but I just felt like it. I want to do this thing. Man, I think it's because they're dinosaurs, and so they can all have different weapons, and it makes more sense to have that rather than just an army. They have an army, but it's not 1,000 strong one. A Lord of the Rings style army with dinosaurs just seems weird to me.
And to be fair, in the second book, too, not really much of a spoiler, he explores more of the world, and you see other military models within the world, too. So it's
exactly, and some of them are different, some of them are armies, some of them is, more structured little groups, and so, yeah.
I always did like that part about primeval power, by the way, in case
thank
I never said it.
Well, I don't think you did, but thank you. No, I like that. I wanted to go more global and show the differences between everyone. Plus, I kind of modeled it as if, okay, someday I want this to be a real-time strategy game. This is how this faction's going to be. So, I wish real-time strategy games were dead. They'll have a comeback someday, surely. Anyways, so 2 characters. So I like to have these bunch of characters, 2 or more characters. I like to have them like this. But one things you have to do is keep it consistent. Your character's consistent. I try to make sure that all the characters sound a little different, not just in terms of what they're saying or the personality, but just, also how it's written. Sometimes it's a dialect, their accent, or sometimes it's they have a specific thing that they say all the time.
Catchphrases.
Well, that, or sometimes it's, just something little, Zach, a character who's in a squad in Megazoic, right? His shtick, a lot of times he says something, and then he's always or something.
I
like,
never noticed that.
Yeah, it's totally yeah, like that's actually, he says it all the time. He's like, this is like something. This is like whatever or something.
I really hope he didn't say like this is whatever or something, because that's
no
super generic.
What,
but anyway, yeah,
I think he says freeze enemies or something. I don't know. At one point he says that.
Yeah, I mean, if you have something like a character tick that you can say, maybe it is catchphrases. Maybe it's the way they deliver things that differentiates them. So it's not like they're all from the same cutout. I tend to have a trouble with, like, in the early shows of Power Rangers, for example.
Right.
There weren't enough, like, obvious ticks in the characters that you could obviously differentiate without, I mean, this talking like you can't see it, of course. But, you know, if you just read it, you wouldn't necessarily know who said something, because they're all so similar people. They're all goody two-shoes. They all say things the same way. And so to introduce more of those things, and obviously later on in the show they got more into this. They give them more distinct characteristics and stuff like that. But that way it's not like they're all from the same mold. It's not like you knit all the patterns together just using different color thread, for example. You know, and in that way, if you have something so obvious like that, it might not be necessary to label each speaker's dialogue.
Exactly. If you do it really well, then yeah, that should be good. Especially like if you have... we don't have this written now, I think it's something to point out. If you have two characters talking, and it's just two characters, you can get to a point where you don't have to say, character said. You just go line of dialogue, nothing.
Oh, and like, for God's sake, please don't use said every single time. We'll talk more about that in a bit.
Possibly, yes. You know, like you can't. I mean, like actually, I've read that more depends on like what the target audience are going for is. In terms of like books that are like more meant for adults, then yeah, said all the time is fine, just because they're kind of more like structural, like the books like adult fiction or whatever. Not like adult like porn fiction. I don't know why I keep thinking that whenever I say adult fiction, but like it's.
Well, okay, I can kind of understand your train of thought, but that's not something.
Because I'm shirtless, I've got nudity on the brain.
It's not something I need to follow anyway.
All right. No, okay, but in terms of like more books like aimed at like younger demographics, like yeah, you say said, yelled, or like shouted, asked, replied, questioned. There's a whole list.
There's a big list. We might get to it at some point.
Sometimes people. I think it's all about preference, though. Like some people say that even with that, it's just redundant. I don't necessarily agree with that, but so yeah. But there's a lot of different things to say with said. Maybe we can cover that in a future episode. Maybe.
Oh yeah, sure. I wouldn't mind.
You hear that, listeners? That's our new warning.
Sorry, what was that blurred? That garbage I heard? I couldn't quite get it.
It was just more like we got like a warning, like
okay,
like future episode ahoy. Maybe I don't know. Or maybe like the icebergs of yore, we just end up dodging it and never end up hitting it. So
never end up hitting it. We'll see. Who knows?
Who knows? Anyway. Life is a real mystery.
Who knows? Listen on to find out. Anyway, okay. So our natural segue here. So we banter quite a lot back and forth, but obviously with the scene, if you have something you're trying to advance the plot, back and forth banter can be fun, but if you overdo it, it bogs down your pace. You can't keep running on banter. Like, yes, it adds fun length if that's what you're going for. It certainly does. I love banter. But it doesn't help your plot at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, I do too, but...
Like, banter is so much fun.
It's always most fun to write, but it's not necessary to the story.
Exactly, but...
It's necessary to developing your characters, perhaps.
Yes.
But if there's another way to do it without, relying on the witty repartee between two characters, then,
Right. I try to do... Like, a lot of times, I have a lot of banter. Like, I love banter. So what I do to keep the banter that I love so much while also advancing the plot forward, I have one or two lines of banter, usually per scene, that like is just nonsense that it's meant to be funny,
off the wall.
And then they go back towards the plot stuff, and then often if I have another thing of banter, it's naturally led from a plot element. So.
Well, another thing you could do if you're tangential like me, and I think about this way a lot, and maybe you are listeners too, that I just find an in, and all it takes is an in, and I can revert the topic or I can divert the topic, you know?
No, I get
so,
that.
So, just direct it a little bit. It's like, oh, hey, remember that spotted zebra we saw in the savannah? Why are you talking about the savannah? Right, we're on the savannah. Got it. I mean, not that.
Well, that sounds like a very well written book. I would read that right now and give it 5 stars.
The writing is so childish. Anyway,
I give it a thumbs up and then another thumbs up.
But to throw it out there, though, I mean,
and
if
then
you
a
have
third
more than 2
thumbs
characters,
up,
if it's still a small cluster of characters, what if there's a character that kind of acts as your straight man, and that's their defining characteristic?
Exactly.
So, like,
and I have
guys,
that. Yeah.
we're getting off topic.
Exactly. Well,
it's always these 2 idiots over here that are bantering with each other, and they always have to be reminded, hey, we have a mission here.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think I'm going to use this point to kind of get into in the first book. That's the Psi Squad. On what each of their role is, and one of them is the straight man, okay? So, you got 5 members of the Psi Squad, so not counting Cortan, who's like the 6th Ranger, if you want to use that trope, even though he's the main character.
Oh, you're doing trope, sorry. Go ahead.
I thought you were saying, hey, Ranger, Power Rangers! Anyways.
That was, never mind, go on.
Shut up, anyways. Okay,
Moment wasted.
I'm sorry. Well, not all of us... Sorry, my bit's gone. I need to put on a shirt. Anyways, so... Okay, so first off, you got Warwick, who's the commander, and he's like... His dialogue is also kind of like a cowboy. Like, that's going to kind of add later. It's because his name is Warwick, and he's kind of like war, but he's a soldier. But also, he's a Utah Raptor. So, I guess if I wanted to be more on the nose, I would make him a Wyoming Raptor, which is a real dinosaur. So... But no, he's a Utah Raptor, and like so he's kind of like the guy who like gets angry whenever they do banter and's like, guys, shut up, I got a mission, but he doesn't like a Western sort of way, like, guys, shut up, I ain't letting you do all this nonsense while we're still got stuff to do. You best, we gotta shoot.
Don't make me shoot you.
Yeah, don't make me shoot you. I've been practicing real good with this here thing of mine. I didn't say it like that, but okay, so that's him. Then you got SWAT, who is like the main frontline soldier. He's kind of the straight man that like he kind of bounces back and forth with other characters, but in terms of his own, his stories, his dialogue is kind of, it's basically normal, like more like Cortan's, and also it also kind of ties into the fact that he's also later, especially later on, not going into specifics, he's one of the more plot important ones. So, yeah, so and then you got Zach, who I mentioned earlier, who's kind of a doofus and always says or something, and it often makes the most dumb comments, and also like is just he just doesn't get what's going on. Like one time Cortan, the main character asks Warwick, "How'd this guy get into the Laurasia Corps again?" And Warwick's like, "Oh, he can shoot, he follows orders, and he can fire a gun. That's it, really." So, and then you got Lantha, who her terms of how she speaks, her dialect, in terms of how it's written, isn't very different, but it's just everything she says is just some sort of snarky comment, usually towards Zach.
Right.
So...
the target of her ire.
Right, exactly. So,
as long as it ain't an Arnold and Helga situation, I think we're alright.
I was just thinking that maybe Lantha might be secretly in love with Zach, but she's not, as far as I know. I love you, and yet I hate you, and I love you, and yet I hate you. What is it that Helga says?
Or they worship the altar in the closet, but they, like, treat them like dirt in their face.
Oh, exactly, yeah. So, and then, finally, you got Blinky, who doesn't say anything. So, there's just all these shakings of heads and such, just like, ugh, really? Come on, people. Like, Blinky's a silent snarker, you see. So,
I see.
What the trope is. Anyways, that's what I do. So I have 5 characters and only 4 of them talk, really. I guess what Blinky does could be considered dialogue, in a way.
It could be. I mean, it depends on how far you're willing to stretch your definition of dialogue, but obviously the interaction is the thing. So,
right, exactly.
Let's go ahead and move on to a slightly larger group, because obviously there are times when Blinky talks, believe it or not.
Yes.
And that means that everybody actually, shuts up and listens, because it's got to be really important if Blinky talks. All right, so we move on to the scene where there are 5 or more, up to a score, a mob, an army of characters in your scene.
Oh, we're no longer short of a score, we're beyond it. Whoa.
We are past the score, yes. This is episode 21, right?
We're past the score in more ways than one, am I right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, just these ones are things that I just some quick hits for big scenes that get really, really unwieldy if you're not careful. Please, please make sure we know who's talking.
Yes.
I mean, even I was mentioning Ludlam earlier. There are several scenes in the book I just finished, the Icarus Agenda, where he has 3 characters in the same room, and literally, without warning, like the third will break into the 2-person conversation, and he hardly mentions it, and he hardly mentions it at all, and so you can only tell based on like how they're reacting, what they're emphasizing, and it's just annoying to follow.
That sounds annoying, yeah.
So please, especially if you've got more than 5 at a time, make sure we know who's talking. I do want to point out that this is just a scene with more than 5 characters. I'm not saying that all of them are talking over each other, but that can happen too.
Right,
you know,
of course.
maybe there are other ways to, add inflection in how you deliver their dialogue. So what you use for the said equivalent, if you were. So there are several. We talked about that future possible episode idea, but like, what about murmured?
Sorry.
Thanks. Murmured, grumbled, muttered. All of those are relatively quiet ones, of course.
Right.
Can you do sarcasm in your font by doing like italics or something like that? You know, something way to just add inflection.
Think so. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, it's probably not a rule that you can't. So,
well, I mean, I'm just thinking you should avoid putting sarcastically at the end of every said verb to explain. Oh, by the way, it was sarcasm.
Sometimes I catch myself saying sarcastically, and sometimes I leave it in. Sometimes it's so subtle and you can't tell what text.
Yeah, I'm not saying it.
Yeah, I try to.
It's all the way obvious, but like, okay.
Well, sometimes
so there's one.
If they
there is one that I have to do, and this is something that's gotten on my nerves with Donald's writing many times, and that is one that again.
Oh yes, I know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. Should I say? I know what you're talking about.
Yes, you're very well aware, and that is the word whispered.
I use it often too much just to say someone talking softly. A lot of times it's because I like to say they said softly a bit too much. So sometimes I put it in whispered, but David is quick to remind me, whispered is not just talking softly. Whispered is talking so softly that you're intending other people to not hear it. So you can't really do whispered to a group.
There's an audience of one.
Exactly.
For a whisper.
You speak into someone's ear.
You speak into someone's ear, or you speak so quietly that nobody hears you. But like, you
can whisper to yourself.
To a group.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And so this is awful. Like, please, people, if there's nothing else you take from this episode, please figure out the correct usage of the word whispered. Okay? Is that so much to ask?
Haven't.
All right, rant over. I'm off my soapbox. Anyway, another quick one is account for everyone. If you have people in the scene,
real quick though. I was gonna say something real quick about sarcasm, real quick though.
Okay, sure.
One thing I like to do in terms of to show sarcasm, if we're going back to that, one thing I like to do in terms of show sarcasm is have the line itself be something that would normally be like a happy line, right? Or like something like, "Yeah, we're so happy to see you."
So
and this is written exactly like that. But then instead of saying said sarcastically, or I just say they groaned or they grumbled or something that's clearly not a positive infliction. That way, that gets the point across. That's what I like to do sometimes.
The other note with that is too, like, if it totally doesn't fit the situation, it's pretty obvious to most readers that it's not meant seriously. So that's one way to accomplish that. Is
exactly,
well.
yeah. Anyways, go on.
Anyway,
what
going
else
back to account for everyone. Here's something that I tend to do as I'm going in scenes. Obviously, I write Ranger Fix, and generally they have teams of like 5. So you have all 5 on screen, unless there's a reason they're not there, at the same time. Which means that you can't, like, load up the dialogue for one person and just leave the others out. That's not fair.
Absolutely.
Even if it embarrasses you to do this, maybe you should have a checklist. When you have a larger scene, make sure that everybody at least contributes something.
Right.
It doesn't have to be serious, doesn't have to advance the plot, but like in the example of his Psy Squad, make sure that everybody interacts in some way.
Well, like in later books, there's often times where it's like upwards of 10 people in like one room fighting certain things. Like, and that is obviously very difficult to keep track of. But since what I do often, like, it's in a fighting scene, I often have one of them just say, incoming, or, like, get down, or just something that's, like, action bit of dialogue, but it doesn't really matter who says it then. So therefore, I just kind of play around with who is the one that says it then to remind people, oh yeah, this character's in this scene. So
exactly. I mean, it's like one of those things that it could just be. It's kind of like a cameo appearance on a TV show, if you will.
Right.
You know, they just drop in, hey, you recognize you're still here, but then you're moving on because you're not really that important to what's going on right now. I mean, obviously, with any scene that's a huge group, you obviously can't focus on everybody at the same time, right? We talked about that three-way battle thing that he was writing last time, the monstrosity of a scene that's really hard to keep track of if you don't, have a clear plan through byline. And it is good. He did a great job with that.
What he's trying to say, I think, is if I mess it up, it'd be hard to keep. Hopefully, it's easy to keep track of, at least easy-ish, because I wrote it well. Maybe I didn't. Hopefully, we'll find out. It's still an editing phase, so
it's not yet on Amazon.com. Anyway,
all right. Anyways, moving on.
Hey, we got to figure it out then. But anyway, so even if it's something like you need a checklist just to make sure that everybody is either contributing as their character would or contributing to the scene, so that you get through the story the way you want it to, without, a lot of times, crap, I only had 2 people talking, yet there are 20 million there.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's true. Sometimes you have a giant army, and you can avoid around it by saying, oh, it's just the generals we're talking, but you never know. Sometimes a soldier has something to say.
Sure.
So what I'd like to do there is, if it's unnamed characters, I just have random bits of plot important dialogue, like incoming, or we need to do this, or this is what we're doing. I just say, if it's an army, I say one soldier said, or another soldier said, or a third soldier said, if it's multiple people. So, or just guy,
that
or whatever.
kind of
replace soldier with whatever.
Those kind of generic pronouns do work when you talk about characters just flitting in and out. But unfortunately, you start counting up, and it's eventually oh wow, there was a 5th, and there was a 17th.
A lot of times I do. Once I go to third, I often go the first one said, the first one said again. Sometimes I go back. I just have 3 talking, and that's it. Even if there's a whole army. It's the original one said. So
something of the kind. Now, if they leave the scene, obviously, you have to find clever ways of doing it. Obviously, with not that I advocate for this because I don't know enough about dinosaurs to do it, but if you're writing about dinosaurs, you have an extra advantage in that a pronoun would simply be their species name.
I do that so much and I love it. That's such a benefit I have to write about dinosaurs, because the characters in my book, they have several different pronouns because they're dinosaurs. One is their name. One is their name, which is, I guess, not pronounced as a noun.
If you know it.
One is he or she or they or it, depending on. And another is their species. So
right.
And that's nice. I guess you can sort of do equivalent if you're not like me, you're not writing about dinosaur species. What you can do instead is sometimes their occupation.
Yep. Their employment. Maybe there's a certain affiliation with a group that you can take advantage of.
Right.
They're not all the same.
Right. Maybe the fireman said, if it's someone got a fire, there was a place that burned down, the one fireman said or something. I don't know why that's the one that came to mind. Something like that,
Yeah. Or you have a room where you've got a fireman, a policeman, and a doctor, and you can just...
They all walk into a bar, and the bartender says, is this some kind of joke?
Not actually what I was referring to, but okay.
There's a great interaction. I talked about Injustice 2 a while back. I think it was in episode 8. But there was a great interaction. This is completely off topic, but I may think of it. I guess it's true. It's kind of a back and forth to a dialogue, but we kind of passed that one was just 2 characters. But anyways, one of the things is if Captain Cold goes up to Dr. Fate, right? What happens is that one of the interactions they can have with a fight, and Captain Cold says, Doctor, and then Dr. Fate says, Captain, and then Captain Cold says, we just need a priest and we can all walk into a bar. We just... thought it was pretty good. I really hope they do that in the Marvel movies, like Captain America and Doctor Strange or something.
Yeah. That'd be funny.
Anyway, sorry. Let's move on.
Anyways, when you have so many characters, making sure that they have some kind of contribution becomes important. At some point, when you have so many that it's obvious you can't get them all to contribute by dialogue, it's usually a fight scene, of course. But, just reminders that they do exist on the periphery, that they are there, that they don't, you don't forget about them. That way you aren't letting the reader forget about them either.
Exactly.
That's important. As far as dialogue goes, though, just a couple more general practice hints, and then I think we can call it good for this episode, perhaps.
Yeah, like we've said quite a bit here. We've had quite a good dialogue about this, haven't we?
Yes, I believe so. I mean, there's more to say about it if you have comments about it, we'll tell you where to send those later. But anyway,
we have to give you a whole monologue.
Can you simply avoid like narrative dumping? Okay, sorry.
Right, because
let me rephrase that. Can you avoid just narrative dumping by using it and using some dialogue device to introduce something that you would otherwise narrate?
Right, exactly. Like, sometimes narrating it just like, oh, this is just exposition that's like really boring because it's in the prose. So a lot of times you don't want to make it too awkward if it's in dialogue, but like...
And we talked about info dumping long time ago, some episode, but
Episode 7, world building and such.
So anyway, but narrative dumping is the same thing. You don't want to have too much that's just narration. Even if it's a quiet scene, you don't have to make it take the space of forever by narrating everything. Unless there's an explicit reason for it. Mm-hmm. In which case, it probably isn't narrative dumping. It's like, the reader has to know. So, there's one. Encompass as much of the in-betweens as you can to keep the scene moving.
Right. Exactly.
Perhaps it's like, instead of saying, and then he turned, and then he's like, well, I'm out of here. The door slammed behind him.
That'd be kind of funny. Like, I actually read something, this is something in a screenwriting class. I think this is more applicable in screenplays because you kind of want to, it's more natural for a scene, but also works, I think, in any writing. And this is something to keep in mind. Don't open a scene with a character walking in and saying, hey, what's up? And don't have them end a scene with, I'm leaving. Or something like that. Just because it's more natural just to kind of have it in the middle of things. I mean, if you want, I guess, in certain
I suppose, yes, it's more natural in the middle of things, but depending on who your focal character is, like, you can show a bit of reaction.
Well, yeah, and also, if they're the focal character and they're walking in...
the door bursts open and the people inside were surprised.
Right, that's more plot important, yes.
Or the converse is, and the door slammed behind him, and the two remaining in the room looked at each other with a grim look on their face.
Right, okay. What I'm trying to say, though, is, like, if it's not needed, don't have it. Like, if when in that instance it is needed because it's part of the scene, which advances the plot. Sure. But if it's just a character talking to someone else, you don't need to show how this character got to the other character if it's not important. So...
Sure. Speaking of things that, you don't always need to keep in, banter is really nice to develop your characters better. But if it bogs down your pace, it's best left on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, don't have too much banter. Eventually someone's like, oh, okay, we get it.
I mean, it's kind of like the director's cut for a movie, It's probably longer than the runtime of the film that you saw in theaters, but like they just had to keep their best scenes in there, And that's fine. Yeah. If you want to keep the scene because you like the banter, maybe you put it down somewhere else as a way to explore character traits and you can bring it back somewhere else. But if you have it all in one place and your story's not moving, and if your story stays stagnant, then most people aren't going to want to continue reading it, no matter how witty your repartee is.
As they say, a good plot is like a shark. It has to keep moving, otherwise it'll sink.
It sinks. Yeah. Okay, so last one for now. All dialogue serves a purpose. Whether it interrupts narration to enliven a scene, whether it passes information between characters, or maybe it simply exists to make humor.
Exactly. That's the thing of banter, why some banter is okay. Because, like, having it as humor, that's the purpose. Like, that's the purpose that dialogue serves. If you have too much of it, it no longer serves a purpose. That's the reason why you shouldn't have too much of it. Like, have a little is fine. Yeah.
As a slight counter to this, with the banter thing, if you're doing it solely to increase your page count, because page count is the way you determine you being successful on a certain chapter or episode or something, you might want to reconsider it. But at the same time, as long as it's developing something. Is it developing your characters in a way that's meaningful to the rest of the story? Is it developing your plot in a way that's meaningful to the rest of the story? Then it's probably okay. If it's simply there and you have like 17 other interactions that are the same, that are just these two characters bantering back and forth because they hate how the other operates and that's never going to change no matter how many times you recreate the scene, drop it.
Right. Now, for what it's worth, there are exceptions to any of these rules.
Yep.
Like, just as long as you do it correctly. Like, I haven't seen... any of this, but like I've read that Quentin Tarantino has very, very, very dialogue-heavy movies. I've actually never seen any one of his films because it's a bit too much for me, but I know he's very influential. And like one of his movies, I don't remember which one it was. Apparently, the first 45 minutes is just two people in a chair talking to each other. Well, not on a chair, at a table. They're on 2 separate chairs. But it's not like a mall Santa thing or something.
Well, if you want to talk about info dumping, that's like dialogue dumping. But anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But like I don't know how. I mean, I've heard he's very good with dialogue, but at the same time, I have a hard time believing that 45 minutes of dialogue, all of it was meaningful. Maybe it was. I don't know. But
sure.
So, but Quentin Tarantino is a very famous filmmaker, so clearly he's figured it out. Point is, this is all just general guidelines. If you got a way to not do these, but in a way that works, do it.
Yeah.
So,
at the end of the day, you're the writer of your own story,
Yes.
so you control how
Absolutely.
much dialogue goes in or out, or banter stays in or gets cut. But the reality is, like, if your reason is just because, it probably shouldn't be there because it needs to serve some kind of purpose.
Exactly. Purpose is good. Which is a shame because I'm starting to get kind of nihilist here and very existential. Like, what's there's no purpose to life or anything.
Anyways, if you have any questions about dialogue or stuff like that, maybe there's
I need to put my shirt on.
specifically
I think
in
that way maybe I'll
dialogue
get my
that you
hope
want
back.
If there's something explicitly within this arena that you'd like to ask us about, how do you get a hold of us?
How do you get a hold of us?
Well, you can start with,
I've lost the...
Fine,
I need my shirt back on, dang it.
Fine, do I need to do all of this
back.
then? Okay, so anyway, obviously
No, I'll do it. It's fine.
The
Yeah,
first
no, you
step,
can
obviously,
start
is to
now.
go to Matthew Donald Creator, and you can use the contact form there, or even just your own email address, and just send us an email. And once again, the email is Matt D, and that is with 2 T's, by the way. Matt D at Matthew, again 2 T's in that name, Donald Creator.com. No underscores, no fancy capitals, nothing. Just
it's going to be in the description of the episode. Don't worry, listeners.
Also, if you need help to copy and paste into your freaking email form, or just go to the website and you can do the contact us page. It works.
Okay.
Once again,
look, if you need help copying and pasting it, then let your grandkids know you need help because clearly you're an old senile grandmother who doesn't.
If you need help copy and pasting it, you need more help than the guy who apparently needs his shirt on to function. So anyway,
this shirt is everything I am. It's all right.
But your own email will work as well. Contact page on the website will do that automatically.
Yes.
Please download the Ritwit on iTunes. Give us a like.
Yes,
review,
please.
Tell your friends. We try not to do too much crazy stuff, although obviously we cross some lines. So, be careful. But
why don't you take your shirt off? Join me on the shirtless party.
Well, all right. Well, I'm joining you on the shirtless party for right now. It's really warm in here.
Yeah!
Anyway.
Look at those pecs. We're so ripped. Yeah!
So, Anyway, if you want to follow our professional media accounts, well, I say ours, but more Donald's over there. Follow Donald on Facebook at Matthew Donald Creator, or you could go to Twitter
at Matthew Donald 64. Which, although, here's to be fair, I don't use my Twitter very much anymore. Let me admit, I may use it sometimes, but probably not do it more. So
instead of following him on Twitter, you can also follow him on other social media sites.
Follow me on Instagram, is what I'm going to say. I don't. There's not really anything important there, because Instagram is actually a really bad place to advertise yourself as a writer, because it's all about pictures.
It's true.
But I have stuff there, and I have like times where I visit museums, and like the photo shoots I have from various events I have for my book that are there. So yeah, and it's also at Matthew Donald 64. So why is it 64 there? Because my Twitter account is 64. Duh.
Wow, talk about a circular argument. Anyway.
Oh yeah. It's also probably accurate.
Anyway, you know what
I
to
don't
do
know.
if you want to follow us, if you want to, download this podcast or tell your friends about it. And most importantly, listeners, keep writing.
Keep writing.
The only way you get better is practice. So
exactly. So and that's what we do. We practice. We write. We writ, and we got some wits somehow. This show's actually not really that well named. We're not witty, you and I. I mean, I'm not. You probably are. Oh.
No, we're not.
Wow, that was like the opposite. I'm the one who I praised you and insulted myself. Whoa. God, I gotta put my shirt back on. Clearly I've got this all wrong. I'm Matt Donald.
And I'm Matt David.
See you guys later.
Until next time, listeners. Thanks for listening to us two twits who talk about writing on the Ritwit. We'll see you next month. The Ritwit.